Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Simufur Pro Platinum Invitational Series, the first broadcasted championship race here in Simufur for this year of 2024. I'm your host, Suzuka Shark, and alongside me is Wolfin Foxdale.
Hello. It's a beautiful day here at Spa. It's probably one of the more.
Sure.
It really is. It's nice and it's beautiful today, at least virtually anyway. It's we have our drivers out on the track. It's a nice, beautiful day. It's a nice way to start off. Well, basically the new year. The track, however, is definitely one that's going to be a very interesting track, at least as far as Simufur races go, and that is Spa, with its dreaded Erosion Radion. And honestly, I can't think of a better way to start off Pro Platinum Invitational than with one of the I would say probably one of the more tougher tracks uh, in ACC. So I'm definitely excited for it.
Absolutely. Spa is quite a tricky and very historic and famous racing circuit, hosting races such as the Formula 1 Belgian Grand Prix or the 24 Hours of Spa. But right now, the current drivers on the grid are the Simufur Pro Class drivers, the top line of the Simufur grid. These are not your silvers, these are not your AMs. They are they are what we can say are the fastest bunch here in Simufur.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are the people that are the ones winning the championship, the overall championships, winning the races. And for the first time, they now get their own series. And I'm definitely excited for it. And it's, I will say though, it is a bit of a small grid, but I think with a small grid, it does breed a lot more competition, especially if the times are very, very close. And judging by the timing sheet, that actually may be the case, except with um, I believe. Double check my calendar. No, they are fairly close. We have at the moment Azure on a pretty good lap with a 2 second gain off their previous. So yeah, This will definitely be interesting.
Yeah, that's right, 12 drivers on the grid. Not the biggest bunch we've seen, because we've seen grid sizes of around 40 to 50 drivers. But considering that this is how many pros are in the field, I don't think it's a bad turnout, because we have a lot of these pros in a lot of cars. Well, majority of them are Porsches, but you get the gist. There are so many cars out there
Yeah,
wanting top honors.
I will say I am a little surprised by this. That there being so many Porsches, and I only say that because though the Porsche is usually one of the more meta cars, here at Spa, it's not going to be as contested as say like the Ferrari or the recently buffed GTR, which has insane straight line speed.
That is for sure.
You
that
Yeah, the new straight line speed, and unfortunately, there's only one Nissan because we've only had this recent buff go live about I want to say a week.
yeah.
Um, I will say though, I also like to apologize. I know we have our safety car screen up at the moment. Please stand by. We are dealing with a brief technical issue. We will be live momentarily. So we do apologize in advance.
Yeah, I do want to point out that GTR's top line that is very useful in areas such as the Camel Strait or from Stopalo to the bus stop. But you do have these technical bits like Puon, Overshradion, this sector that Azure's going through right now. I forgot its name, but it's the Spawn circuit is a great mix of these two, honestly. Straight lines, and then you got medium to high speed corners. So so the pace level is quite diverse, depending on the machinery that you're on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe the turn you were talking about was Blanchimont
Yeah,
before the
right now
chicane.
Azure's
Yeah,
getting past
they are rolling on
Blanchimont.
Blanchimont. I am sorry. I jumped the gun there and I misinterpreted what my screen was telling me. But as we see Azure enter the chicane for another time. We have about 3 minutes left on practice, and then after that, we will be going into qualifying. And because it's a uh, one class, it's going to be a more or less a free for all against these 13 drivers. Uh, Definitely going to be interesting. We do have actually one or two. I also want to point out we do have a couple new pro drivers that are entered in this series. One of them being RK in the
Oh
250.
yeah.
They were just added on this like not even a few days ago, and from what I am told, their times are going to be pretty up there. So I am definitely going to put them in contention for both either a race win or a race championship as we follow Saber Kitsune into the chicane for yet another lap. At the moment, they have the fastest lap, but they are coming in to go for a pit, I guess, to practice their pit stops as they
Yeah.
come in.
Yeah.
Currently, they have the fastest time with a 2:19.520.
I was about to say, practicing for the pit stop is very important because this circuit on ACC, it's one of the trickiest pits next to the Red Bull Ring, both entry and exit. You really have to focus on those. And I also want to add this to RK, like, it was not televised, but he did decently well in the Ferrari Challenge Series just a few days ago on Friday.
Yeah, I unfortunately was not able to view that, even with the streams. I've just not had the time. But as I was told, yeah, he was insanely quick. But you know, being insanely quick in the Ferrari Challenge is one thing. These GT3s are a completely different beast. I will say they do have around the same power, but remember these cars have a lot more aero, meaning you can really push in the Ferrari challenges you normally couldn't.
Yeah, the GT3s, she can really send these cars around the corners. I've had my personal experiences with both machinery, and I would say that GT3s, they're my favorite for sure, with that sheer amount of grip. As you see, Simon take a Russian Radion with that much grip. But yeah, I believe that these two, I think RK will do well in the GT3 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I am super excited for this. This is really going to let these pros loose because they will no longer have either lap traffic or just traffic in general to be fighting with. It's just going to be pros and nothing but pros. As we see, Azure has now set the new fastest lap at 2:18.587. Very quick lap. We're still waiting for some other people to set times, but I don't think they will be. There's only 14 seconds left on the clock. I think they're all waiting and setting up their quali setups to get ready for qualifying in any second now. The server should ping right about now. There
Absolutely.
it is.
Those times will be the definitive times as we wait for those others to complete their laps. And yeah, while we wait, I can't stop paying attention to that Rexy livery of Cafe, like, especially because of the Daytona 24 hours that recently we have been watching.
Yeah, I was actually going to point out, like, how did Rexy get here all the way from Daytona to Spa in a matter of seconds after finishing a race?
Rexy might have some magic up their sleeve.
You never know. You absolutely never know. But yeah, jokes aside, we are now following Fossey as they go into pit lane. As we get ready for qualifying, it should pop up any second. Now, I think we've got one or two cars left on the grid, including our one of our Bluey teammates, New, who is racing in this series. They are now heading out on Stabilo and heading onto the back straight there, and it is going to be, I think that's the only person waiting on it is New.
I believe there is, yeah, that is Newt, and I especially want to say this. I want to reaffirm, chat, especially as the short-cup Blue E-boss, that there won't be any Blue E-bias around here. We promise.
No, there may be Bluey bullying though.
Just a bit of answer, but yes.
Yeah, all right. So Just give us a few seconds. We're currently waiting for Newt to head around the the last corner,
I
and
believe Kathy is our last one to go in. We
it
come.
will be Cafe. Okay.
Yep. So we're just waiting for these pro cars to finish their laps and on to qualifying. There we
Here
go.
we go, and we are now live with qualifying as we see Azure, who had gotten in first on the grid, is going to really help them because now they have nobody ahead of them. And away Azure goes, followed by Newt, and then I believe that is Saber that was able to get out third. Now,
Yeah, that is Saber.
something you want to really point out here is that pit box positioning is not done the way you think in real life, where it's just like, where you qualify is, or where you show up is where you get your pit stall. Here in ACC, it's first come first serve, so the first person to get into the server gets the first spot on the pit grid. And on qualifying, that is a huge help because that means you're immediately out and you don't have any traffic ahead of you. And I think that's going to really help out Azure as he heads down the track on their flying lap.
Yeah, we do have quite a number of pros coming out, but also we have a few drivers still staying, probably wanting the clean air that Azure luckily has the freedom as he is first out the pit box.
Yeah, I can also see behind them, I think that was Saber, who was able, I guess, Nuke waved them by,
Yeah.
and, excuse me, as to give Saber a little bit more room, we can see them in the background. Saber has a massive gap behind Azure, so that's going to really help them as well. I think what also is going to help out somebody else is Nuke, because I don't believe they're too far behind Saber, but not enough to where they're going to get blocked.
There might be a little bit of dirty air from that gap, but I think that's not too close where I think Newt will spook Saber or Saber will spook Newt.
No, I don't think so. They'll do fine. As we continue to follow Azure as he heads down the main straight.
Let's take a look at the lap around Spa, around Azure. Let's go. Here we go. Coming into the first straight. This is where the timer is set. Coming as they head into the hairpin, braking hard into La Source. Really tight hairpin on this one. You really want to get the corner right so you get a great exit speed. Coming out of that corner, heading to this straight where the drivers will indeed start. And let's not forget the infamous Rouge Radial combo as Azure takes it nice and flat. I think that was really good, and he is on it, pinning the pedal on the Camel Straight. How long will he pin that pedal? I don't know, but coming next is these next series of corners. This is Lake Holm as he carefully glides around these corners with ease, slightly on the curb, but not too bad. Bit of clipping here and there, but that is a decent running as they head into the next corner. I don't know, I forgot this name.
Brussels.
I'm not really, yeah, Brussels. But yes, coming out of that tight corner, coming into No Name. Now this is the original layout where we didn't have any runoff. The speaker's corner as we head into Pouhon, a dab on the brakes, coming into this high-speed corner, really tricky to get, really scary corner in some cars, but Azure bravely takes it on, coming into Fanes. Yes.
It's Fanes.
It's a Fanes, yes. It's a tight section, campus. Oh, bit of oversteer out campus, but Azure holds it nice and clean. Stavalos the next corner, pins the throttle, a bit of wiggle, but nothing too bad as they comes down into Frere. Take that corner a bit as wide as you can. Don't break the track limits or that's an invalid lap. As the next corner is a flat out. That's turn 16 coming into Blanchimont. This is a really tight corner. You have to pin the throttle in the GT3, and I think Azure's done well there as he pins down the brakes really hard into the bus stop chicane. Can he get this car slow down in time? Yes, he can, and that is a time worth. Let's see what that time is. That time is a 2 minute 18.1. That is the time to beat as our next driver, Saber, does not beat it. He is half a second off. and there's Newt 1.7 behind. So Azure on provisional pole as we speak.
Yes, remember, this is still really early. It's only lap 1. I am checking my timing sheet right now. There is a 1 second gain by RK. They are about, 1.5 seconds gain. This is definitely going to be interesting as they come across the line. Let's see where this leads them. It is going to be I think this might do it. This might be a 217, 218.
That is a provisional pole for RK. 2 tenths ahead of Azure.
Yeah, right there. It was super close. I was watching it on the cyber screen as they went by the line. I was wondering if it was going to be close, and I was not wrong. It is now a provisional pole for RK. They said people were saying he was going to be fast, and I'm starting to believe it. We now have a position change for third. It is now M&U with a 218.6 as we see Rexy just go a little bit wide as they head down into, I believe that is
That's coming off Stavolo.
yeah, that was Stavolo. I was about to say Stavolo and then second guess myself.
Yeah. Now he's getting into Blanchimont. Great and nice around there. Lovely car for sure.
Yeah.
Just now as he pins the brakes coming into the bus stop. Hard right and hard left. That is great cornering of that Porsche. And that will be a time worth.
It will not be a time, actually.
That will not be a time, unfortunately.
It was an invalid lap, unfortunately. I think they were just coming out. That I think was their out lap, and now they are on their actual lap as they head down the long straight on their way to Rouge and Radion.
Here comes Azure with another lap.
Yeah, here comes Azure with another lap. Is this going to be a gain? No, it is not.
Sector 2.
No, it is not going to be a gain. However, RK is just about. I want to say they're about the same time. But I apologize. I'm looking at our timing sheet as I'm looking at the race itself, and right now, as we follow randomly heading down into turn 1, they have now just secured a P7 spot, 215, 470, or a 219, 637. I apologize. Or 470. I apologize. As we see the yellow on Wushel. I don't know what happened there, but they suddenly have an invalid lap. So
I think they went a bit too wide.
They must have, I was gonna say they must have gone a little bit wide at some point. They are now heading down the back straight on their way to Largemont as we get a replay. Let's see what happened here. Yeah, let's see what happened here because there was a yellow flag for a while, so I'm wondering what happened. This is on the S's on their way to Stavolo. Let's see what happens. Oh,
there's a bit of oversteer.
That was a lot of oversteer into right outside of Stavolo. I noticed they clipped the corner just a little bit, and I think that cooked their tires. As we see Wushel now heading into the pits, probably to get a new set.
Yeah, that Porsche really snappy on the throttle. That's what it's well known for. As we see another Porsche, newbie Nick. Actually, hold on. As they coming into Buon, I believe that is, with traffic ahead. That is I think that is Simon. I think they should.
That is Simon.
Yes, that is Simon,
and even more importantly, Simon is on an invalid lap, which means they will be blue flagged if Newbie gets any closer, meaning they will have to concede and let Newbie by. Which, given that it is a invalid lap, it's not really going to matter too much. But that is a car in the sand trap. I don't know who that was, but that was somebody deciding to maybe build sand castles at some point. Let's see who that was.
But wait, hold on.
That is Azure, but
that is our new pole sitter by 2 tenths once again.
Oh yeah, we have a new pole sitter. It is Azure with a 217, 727 as we follow Newbie back around on the chicane as they head into the pit stall. I think to get again new tires. I will say I'm actually a little bit curious about that because it kind of feels like a lot of these drivers they're getting their really good laps and then they immediately duck in the pit lane to get new tires or do something, maybe make adjustments. But it just, as I say that, we now have another
Yeah.
fastest lap of RK with a 2:17.2. That is an incredibly fast lap. It has been RK and Azure trading pole position, and I believe if they keep it this way, I don't see. I definitely see this being a very interesting race, as I see a few drivers have also come into pit. New Saber and RK respectively, as we follow the number 10 of Katie as they
That's
head down
position 10,
into
number 6.
turn 1.
Yeah, that's position 10, number 6. But yeah, Katie coming across Eau Rouge Radion. Here we go. Takes it right nicely as we cut to Vossi.
Yeah, we are now following the 13 of Vossi, who has not yet set a decent time, or set any time for that matter. They've generally been a very fast driver, so I'm wondering if maybe they're just trying to get their legs going as they head down toward as they head now down toward Bruxelles. Into Bruxelles. It's going to be their out lap, and yes. Oh, actually, I am wrong. They are actually on a flying lap, and they are 2/10 up from their previous time. They just need to make it valid, and that will be from what I can see, this is going to be a fairly decent time if they're able to do it. Here they come down the straight as they head toward the S's. In and out, nice and easy, no problems there. Are they gonna go a little wide? Yes, they are. Is it invalid? Oh, it was close. That was incredibly close, but they were able to save it. Now heading into Stabilo 1. Still a little bit wide, and unfortunately it was too wide. It divided a hair into Stabilo 1 and then really wide into Stabilo 2. That is super unfortunate. They were on an amazing time, but unfortunately is yet another invalid lap. But they still have plenty of time. They still have 17 minutes to set a time, so plenty of time to get a time in before the end of the race, or before the end of qualifying. As we get back,
that is very unfortunate for Vossi, who has to set another lap. Don't forget, Vossi's the only driver so far to not have completed a lap time, but he does have 17 minutes left to set at least one valid lap. So there's not much pressure on the number 15 Tig Gang racing car.
Yeah, not much pressure yet as we go back to following Katie as they head down the main straight on their way to Eau Rouge and Radion. Nice and easy in that really nice, I want to say it's kind of a tribute Golf livery.
It does look Golf-esque, yes.
Yeah, it really does look Golf-esque, and I do quite like it. It's a very unique take on it. And as we see one of the few behind them, one of the few old school cars in the GTR, that is M&U in the white and all white. I want to say, like, I gotta ask this, Suzuka, is this normal in like Super GT cars, or just, you know, cars from like Japan and such in general? Just the amount of anime on this car is quite impressive. It is something I would expect a weeb to drive. I'm not going to call him a weeb, but I'm going to point out that that is something that, you know, I would honestly expect a weeb to drive. Just putting it out there.
I mean, it is a cute livery. I do love the plaid blue as well.
I will say though, if you do think about putting plaid liveries on our cars, I swear to God.
We don't have that ideas at the moment.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
You will be rotated.
Oh no.
Oh no, anyway.
Anyway, we have Avenue on another lap.
Yeah,
No, they're in an invalid lap, so their next lap they're on their next flyer, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely a flying lap, but unfortunately, again, as you pointed out, it is invalidated. I am checking my timing sheet.
Yeah, that is Bossy on the bus stop chicanes.
Yeah, Bossy on the bus stop. This is going to be a valid lap if it stays the way it is, and it is going to be a
2 points. Almost by
2:19.
200ths of a second.
Oh,
Still,
yes.
Bossy feels like he needs to pick up the pace, especially
Yeah,
because of a time
definitely.
like that.
As we follow Azure, Azure's on an amazing lap. They're 2/10 up. If they keep that 2/10, it will not, unfortunately, give them a it will not take pole, but this is on a definitely improving lap as they head down toward the S's on their way to Stavolo. So far, so good. They're keeping an eye on the timing sheet, and it is definitely a very good lap. They're keeping it as close as they can. They are about 3/10 up, and I don't think the way it goes, unless they're able to really get a good run, say going into the chicane, I don't see this beating the current pole time, but I definitely see this getting them just a little bit closer. They head out. Oh, as I say that, I might have spoken a little bit too soon. What a massive jump! It is now 4/10. Let's see where it lines up. Unfortunately, it was an improvement, but it wasn't a big enough improvement. 2:17.490. I will say, I was looking at the timing sheet at the last second. They had an almost half a second gain going into that corner, but unfortunately, going out of the corner, they lost a good chunk of it.
That is rather unfortunate. The bus stop really bleeds time. And looking into the sector times, it is quite close. Azure's only like 300 slower in sector 1, 2/10 in sector 2, and that is again 300 slower than sector 3. So Azure definitely has more time to gain. But RK, I believe he is not on another flyer at the moment. I think he's preparing, as his current delta is like 1 second off. But I think, touch wood, RK has this in the bag, at least in qualifying, because I don't think I see anyone touching that time unless Azure in the fellow McLaren. I should also mention this. 2 McLarens. It's a McLaren 1-2, the quickest car here in Spa. But it,
yeah.
But,
oh, I was gonna say definitely a similar definitely. I wouldn't say a surprise. McLarens are very fast in straight lines, but remember, Azure is one of those drivers. They live and breathe McLaren. They've whenever
yep, Azure was a bit slidey. Yeah.
Bit of a wiggle.
Yeah, he abandoned that lap. But
no
yeah,
surprise.
focusing onto RK now. RK on the Camel Straight. They are currently 300s past their delta. They are trying another lap. Let's see where this takes him.
Yeah, let's see where this heads as they head down into turn down into the Lake Holm and Malmedy, as they now are on their way to Brussels or Bruxelles. Apologize, I'm American. They're on their way to Bruxelles and now heading towards Speaker's Corner. Nice and easy. They are just a little bit of an improvement. They're about the same, I want to say, but I wouldn't say massive improvement, but there is definitely a improvement.
Absolutely. RK once again on the limit on that McLaren 720S GT3 car, coming down these next series of corners, exiting Chapel. What was this called again?
That is. I think you're right.
Campus, I think. And
no,
coming into Stavolo. This is Stavolo.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Here we go. And as he exits into the back straight, that is 500 past his delta. So I think this is gonna be a close one. RK might extend his lap by just a smidge, just a little bit hundreds. Not
about
much.
Yeah, about 0.5 it looks like on the timing sheet as they head
Oh,
down
we
into
got a
the
massive gain down the bus stop chicane. And
yeah,
what
but
will that
then
be? But no, he lost all that time. It's going to be
yeah,
almost the same. Yes, it
yeah,
is.
it is going to be the same. Unfortunately, they had a massive jump going into the bus stop, but unfortunately, I don't know what happened. It looks like they just lost all the time going out. Right now, as they put it off the side, we are now following Caffey and Rexy. They are about they're about 4/10 off Azure as they head down toward as they now head down toward the back straight, but they are on a tear actually, about 2/10 up. And unlike the McLaren, the Porsche will have a little bit of a better time going through the chicane than the McLaren, just due to the fact that just these Porsches are just incredible in cars with no cornering. Let's see where it goes. It is a definite gain. It's going to be close. It's about 1/10, but then they lose it going into the main straight. Is it going to be enough? Yes, it is. It's going to be enough to
That
secure P2.
That T-Rex just chowed down on Azure's lap time, and Azure's just recently come out for another lap, wanting more. Another driver gaining right here is the Lamborghini of Saber Kitsune as he comes out of Stavolo into the back straight. They are currently 1/10 faster than their lap time, which won't be much as the next driver, Azure, is like 8/10 faster. But
Yeah,
let's see where
8
this takes him.
8/10 faster, but it's definitely going to give them a bit of an improvement. And remember, Lamborghinis don't have any turbos or superchargers, so that is a straight NA, which means power straight to the wheels. They're able to get out of the corner very well. Is it going to stay that way? Yes, it is. 218, 145, so they're just getting in under the 217s as Saber comes in and calls it quits. As we now follow Wushel, who is now also on a now preparing for a flying. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a replay of Wushel heading down into the chicane. Let's see what happens there.
Oh,
they got a little bit of a bit of a wiggle, which then led to a spin going out of the chicane. That's super unfortunate as Saber had gone by.
Yeah,
I was actually honestly I did notice that car, but because of the sun and the wall, Wushel kind of blended into the wall a little bit. And I just barely made it out in the time as we see Nuke, who's currently in P8 they were on a, I believe they gained a little bit of time. They're currently 8th at the moment.
Yeah, they just stole the position from Randomy, who was setting a lap themselves. Let's see where
that's
Randomy
super wide though.
That is an invalid lap. Yes, it is.
That's
unfortunate.
Way too wide. Yeah, that's way too wide as we see Randomy heading down the back straight on their way to the chicane, as Azure is now going to make yet another attempt. They need to gain, in order to reclaim their P2, they need to gain about 4 or 5 tenths, or not 4 or 5 tenths, 0.45 tenths to regain their P2, and it does not look like it's going to happen at the moment, but this is only the first stage, as Caffey is going into pits, I believe, or unfortunately invalidated, heading in out into Sector 2 on Lecombe and Malmedy on their way to Brussels. Nice and easy, and looks like everything is going to plan. They have, unfortunately, they now have a problem. Caffey is now really gaining on time. They are gained about 0.8 of gap on their time, and unfortunately, Azure has not gained any amount of time. See where this leads.
Yes,
Azure
we'll see where
really
the speed. These top 3 are absolutely on the limit, pushing their cars to the extreme. These 3 are 7 tenths. I can't stress it enough. Azure 7 tenths away from the rest of the field. The top 3 split between the top from 4th to 13th.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Azure had a bit of a wiggle going out onto. Had a bit of a wiggle going out. I believe that was the S's on their way to campus, and
Looking at
it
Simon Luck,
unfortunately
he's
cost them a
gaining.
lot of time. Yeah, and we have Simon who's gaining a good chunk of time. Let's see where that puts them. Is it going to
Nope,
be an improvement?
no,
No,
no
close
steal
though.
with that lap time, but that was pretty close.
Very
And
close, and I'd like to.
looking
Another
at
thing
the
I like.
chat, we have a few a few fans of a lot of different cars, as the Cinnamoroll car, which I assume is Simon, and then we have Azure and RK. So
Um,
got lots of fans here in chat
I'd
rooting for
like
their
to.
favorite drivers.
I would like to point out, Suzuka, that is not a cinnamon roll. That is escargot.
Oh,
Literally, as in the like as their team name implies, it is quite literally escargot. Believe me,
and
I almost thought the same thing, and then I realized, oh right, that's how
yeah.
you eat escargot in a
Uh,
like in an almost cinnamon roll like fashion.
Yeah, and I've been corrected about the cinema roll car. That is actually MNU's GTR, which is currently P6. As you see, Vossi getting timing, and here comes MNU again. Where is MNU? That is 1/10 off their best. So MNU once again on a fast lap. That's for sure.
Well, as you said, 1/10, it immediately went up. It's now 2/10 and gaining. He is absolutely giving it everything he's got. And if he is able to do it, this will give him P5 yet again. It is on the limit. He's now 3/10 up. All he needs is about 2, and he'll get it. So he is on track to gain P5 once again. Once again, heading into the S's on their way to the Stavolos, nice and easy, no invalid lap. They're giving it everything he's got. He's gaining everything and giving everything. He is now almost half a second gain. He is giving that Nissan, everything goes up, and
No, he's
unfortunately,
gone too wide.
he's gone really wide. Is that going to affect it? Yes, it is. Unfortunately, it is invalid. That is so unfortunately unfortunate. Commentary discourse, I think, strikes again. And that is honestly super unfortunate because they had an amazing lap setup as we follow Azure. They are now 0.5 tenths of a second. This is going to do it. If he's able to connect the last corner, this will do it. Oh, wow, what a massive gain. Here we go. Down the straight. Is it going to be T2? Yes, it is. A 2:17.397. He is now almost 1/10 off of RK's time. He has been on a tear, and I will say, like, talking to him earlier, he is dead set on trying to, either win this championship or just, or beat the fellow McLaren driver of RK, because point out, Azure basically lives and breathes this McLaren. As we go back to Caffey, who is now also on a improved lap, almost 1/10. This may actually, unfortunately, knock Azure off. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's a little bit
this
wide.
I think this is Caffey for pole.
Is it?
Not
quite.
quite.
Not quite, and it wasn't enough to get P3. They lost a lot of time going out of the last corner. I don't really know what happened there. Maybe they had a bit of a wiggle. Unfortunately, our camera angle was able to give a good look at what it was, but Caffey's going to try to give it one more try. There's a minute left. There's not going to be enough time to set yet another lap. So by the time, this is going to be the last laps of this session with 1:13 to go.
This is getting really spicy. The chat is rooting for their favorite teams, favorite drivers. Look at everyone in chat. They love this qualifying, and ooh, Simon with a bit of a slide, but they are on it right now. The fastest time, Caffey is on 2/10 right now. Simon is on 1/10. Let's see how these times tumble. As Simon comes down Blanchimont, heading into the bus stop chicane, pin down those brakes, heading into the chicane, really tight corners, hard right, hard left. What will it be for Simon? It's going to be, I think that is 1/10 down, and Simon is still 5th. Not enough to steal from Saber.
Yeah, and I also want to point out Caffey is on an absolute monster of a lap. 0.2 seconds up. If this lap goes, it will be a pole position for the Rexy of Caffey in the number 21. They are giving it everything they've got. I'm keeping an eye on this. I am keeping an eye both on the times and on the car itself as they go super wide going out of the corner. Unfortunately, I think that's going to do it. All that
That's
time was lost in
that's still a
Stavolo.
that's still a valid lap, yes, but he's lost a lot of time coming out of that corner as they head into Blanchimont and coming into the final corners. Can they redeem it? Can they find a 10th somehow in the bus stop chicane? As they,
They're
what will it
trying.
be? They're trying. They're trying.
Oh
It's not
no, that's
quite.
invalid. Not quite at all, and unfortunately they pushed it too hard and invalidated. So that is going to do it, and that is going to lock up our top 3 positions in this race. What an absolutely monster of a push though from Caffey. They were giving it everything they had, and they almost got pole. And super unfortunately this lap did not come out to be.
Yeah, rather unfortunate that Cappy couldn't steal pole, but the next driver up is Saber, who is 4/10 faster. What can the Lambo do? But they lost a lot of time in the chicane. That's unfortunate. That's not their best, and they remain 4th. The next driver, MNU underscore in the GTR. How can Godzilla tear up the track here in Spa? The GTR naturally used to tearing down Tokyo tracks around Japan, but this is new territory for the GTR in the new patch. What can the new popped up Godzilla do? MNU underscore currently 4/10 down, but that's unfortunate as it was a valid lap. Our next driver, number 25, is Nick. 2/10 down. What can the Porsche do? That yellow Tiger-esque. That's a beautiful livery, but yes, the yellow MSRL, I think that's MSRL Porsche, as they head into the final chicane. What can their time be? Oh, they've been too wide in the chicane. I think they messed it up. Have they messed it up? I think they have. That is unfortunate. No time gain for Nick, and that concludes qualifying with RK on pole.
Yeah, what a beautiful lap from RK. They set that lap early and it stuck, and nobody was able to really beat that time. However, Azure and Caffey did get very close. They're only about a 10th off that lap. So it's suffice to say, if we were to go by, if we were to go by this, it's definitely going to be very close racing going into this race, and I think it's honestly just going to come down to who can get the best move going out of Erosion Radiant and on the Camel. Um, I don't really. It's going to be close. I'll just put it out there. It's going to be very close. I will say though that the McLarens do probably have the advantage over the Porsche, just due to the fact that they're straight line speed. But you never know.
I mean, to be honest, the Porsche has some godly acceleration, so it really is a close race on the start. 3 drivers separated by under 0.2 of a second, and then you have a few contenders like the GTR MNU. That GTR also has ungodly power, and let's see how many positions he can make coming down into lap 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Because remember, so normal in some tracks you would normally have the start with start finish line. Here it's a little bit different. The start of a race is actually done on the old straight, which is the one going downhill onto Eau Rouge and Radiant, and then the start finish is actually the turn before that, before turn 1. So you are not going to have any bunching up problems going into turn 1, so no moves are going to be able to be made there. However, going into Lake Home and Melmedy is probably going to be the first place of
Breaking.
First place of breaking, yes, but the first attempts at probably make you move in or out of for positions. I'm gonna be curious to see, because remember, this is a smaller grid, so moves are gonna be a little bit different. than say for a larger grid.
You're right there, Wolfin. It's going to be an interesting battle for the lead, and an interesting to see how the cars will survive in lap one here in Spa.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've just based off the times, there is a fair bit of difference between like say the top three and the top six, but just looking at the times themselves, the I'm gonna say that just looking at the times, it's gonna be very the packs are gonna be very close up together. So there's gonna be a lot of fighting this race. And as we see, the grid has started up. They have lined up for the start of the race. Um, we should be getting started soon, probably in a couple minutes.
Yeah,
And
working on a
once,
few technical bits, but unfortunately our broadcaster is having issues right now. So the best we could do is probably voice out and give you a radio of a rough commentary of the
yeah,
race. But let's get to our starting grid right now. So starting with our pole sitter, which is RK, brilliant lap time as we said. Let's see how they will do in their first GT3 race. And alongside is Azure Goat representing Ridge Race Project, RRP. That McLaren, the two McLarens will definitely be duking it out come this race. And then behind them is the Rexy Porsche of Cafe, who cannot, who who wouldn't recognize this iconic Porsche racing car? That car, that car just strikes the hearts of many people, that's for sure. And next to Kathy is the Lamborghini of Saber Kitsune, number 523. And our third row, right here, it's the two Aston Martins. So you have P5 is Simon Luck in the representing S-Car Go, and Newt representing Short Cub Blue Shark E-Racing. Behind them, P7, P8, MNU underscore in that Cinema Roll GTR, and next to under MNU is this number 69 Short Racing of Wushel. Now for P9, P10, we have the first Ferrari, and actually the only Ferrari, Randomy 666, number 73, and next to him is Katie in the number 6 Porsche. Behind those two are the Tig Gang racing car, the number 15 Tig Gang car of Vossi, and next to that is Nick Newby in the MSRL racing car. And in last place, you have Dip Exhaust in the Aston Martin number 992. Now let's see how this grid will sort out as we get ready to roll. Unfortunately, we still can't have that broadcast at the moment, but we'll be relaying what's going on to you guys.
yeah, we still got plenty of time. They've just now started to roll off as we get ready to go. They've now just started the pace lap as they roll away down on their way to Eau Rouge and Radeon. Um, Drivers are getting their tires nice and warm. Um, Again, we want to apologize. We will try our best to get to get our live feed back up and running. Unfortunately, ACC is having a little bit of a hiccup. We will get back to you as soon as we can. They still plenty of time though. They still have not started the race as we wait for the cars to roll off on the grid or to head down on the or I'm sorry, the first set of corners, which will be turn 3 and 4. Um, so again, unfortunately, I'm just getting a little bit of an update. Unfortunately, the connection to Kuno servers are the reason for this, and we're gonna do our best we're gonna try to give you a live radio feed until we can get ACC back up and running. We unfortunately will not be able to stream it live at the moment.
Yeah, big apologies for the inconvenience. But for now, we have Radio Blue Shark up for you, relaying verbally what's on this race. So, so you, so just imagine, just use your mind to imagine what is going to happen in this race. As we see RK, the rest of the grid still weaving the tires, getting temperature in them. This is going to be very important as Spa is a long track and they do not want to be on those cold tires come lap 1.
No, you don't want cold tires on a race like this, especially with these long straights where you can really lose temperature in these tires, because it is definitely not something you want. They are now on their way to the chicane. As you're I believe riding their brakes at the moment, right behind RK. They are now on the back. Actually, I'm sorry. They are on their way onto the back straight, or the S's. We still got a little ways to go. It's plenty of. Hopefully, we'll be back up and running before before time or before they get started. But we will let you know. At the moment, we are kind of waiting at the moment. They're still warming up their tires. It's still going to be a little bit of a ways to go. I guess I should ask, who do you think is going to win this? Because honestly, I have my thoughts, but I don't really know if they'll be to fruition or not.
I don't want to jinx him, but my bets are on RK. They have been on pace lately. They have been putting up the times. They have been absolutely rapid. But one thing's for sure, he needs to keep this pace for 1 hour worth of racing. As they almost ready up, I think they're just coming down Blanchemont as they get ready. I think they're about to double file quite soon.
Double filing will be probably any second now.
Here we go. Here's the double file.
Yep, double file. Here we go. As Azure is setting themselves, or as we follow Azure and RK down into the chicane. Azure gonna have a little bit of a jump, getting ready to go into turn 1, trying to warm up those brakes, get them as nice and toasty and their tires as ready as they can be. It's definitely going to be a run to the line as we get ready for the first ever Pro Plat Invitational. And, well, here we go. 1 corner left, hill green, and it'll be a absolute free-for-all going into Radeon and Rouge and Radeon. Oh my god, I don't know what happened there.
Absolutely. The cars are now filing up to the main straight. This is going to be an interesting race as this is the inaugural Simufur Pro Series, and we are just waiting for the lights to go green, and it's go, go, go! Azure's got the jump on RK already, heading too wide into Eau Rouge and Radion. Who will come out on top? It's Azure, round the outside on Eau Rouge Radion, and Azure takes the lead of the race. RK under fire now from Cafe, as they are side to side. Here comes Cafe and Saber. RK already under fire. Unfortunately, RK's losing places, but defending with their might as Cafe backs out of it, thinks better of it as lap 1. Newt going a bit wide there, but so far so good as Azure steals lap 1 of this race.
Absolutely massive launch off from Azure. They were able to get it right at Eau Rouge and Radeon, and it helped them out massively, and they were able to just run away with it. Now all Azure has to do is hold that spot. But right now, RK is trying their best to make up that time loss, and they are doing a pretty darn good job of it. And they are definitely regaining their times. But right on the heels is Cafe. They are right there following RK as Saber is just along for the ride. Azure's having an amazing run going into turn one, and it is paying dividends for this start of the race as they now head out of the S's and on their way to Stabilo. Now in the Stabilo 1. Oh, Azure went a little bit wide, but I don't think it's going to cost them too much time. RK, unfortunately, also went a little bit wide. Their tires are still a little bit green. Now heading into the back straight, and it is still all Azure.
Yeah, absolutely. Azure has made quite the nice steal coming into lap 1, but already Arcade coming up close. A bit late on the brakes. I think that will compromise their line as Caffey, the Rexy Porsche, tries and makes a sniff out of the McLaren.
Yeah, they were trying. I think RK was going to try to go for the over under, and unfortunately they were not close enough. And Azure is just holding onto the line as RK once again tried to make another sniff going into turn one. They weren't able to do it, but they were able to hold the line. And now here they come toward Rouge and Radeon Azure with a large gap. That's going to help them out massively. So long as everything goes the way they are, it is now Azure Go, RK and Caffey P1, P2, and P3.
That slipstream will come into big effect as they drive across the Camel Straight. Caffey is quite far, but RK quite close to Azura at the moment. But Caffey really aggressive on those brakes as they head into Lake Home. But that Rexy Porsche is still not quite as close as they would like to be. And Alright, as we look back at some place gainers, we do have Newbie Nick, who's made up 4 positions. Dipping's made 2. And then you also have MNU making 2 positions. And then we've had, of course, RK dropping 1 position, Simon dropping 1 position, Newt dropping 1 position, Katie dropping 1 position, Randomy dropping 3 positions. That's unfortunate for the first stint of the race, but let's see where they can take this. And Vossi right at the back, dropping 2 places.
Yeah, unfortunately, Vossi guess had a bit of a rough start as I'm keeping an eye on the lead race at the moment because it is still incredibly close. Azure's giving it everything he's got. RK had a really nice launch going onto the back straight. It's going to be close. RK with a move was going to try to make a move. He is right there on the back bumper at Azure as they head into the second to last corner on their way to the chicane. It's right on the bumper. RK's got the
Looking
run.
on the inside into the outside.
Into the out. It did not work. Well, it might work. Here they come down in the second part of chicane.
No, but
it did not. Azure was able to shut the door.
But yeah, all that fighting is just letting that Rexy Porsche of Caffey close up to RK's bumper. And we would like to say again, unfortunately, because of the current status of the servers that Kunos run, which ACC runs in, we can't give you the video feed as of the moment. But so for now, you'll have to bear with our voices.
Yeah, we do again apologize for the technical difficulties. Unfortunately, this is something out of our control. Kunos just decided to accidentally spill coffee on the servers a bit too late, or a bit too soon, I should say. And we'll just stick with radio Simufur as we see Azure heading down the Camo Straight. Nice big gap. That fight, I think that move on RK unfortunately cost him a little bit of time, but Caffey is right there on the bumper of RK. It has really been these 3 drivers as we see Azure go a little bit wide going out. I believe that was right before the hairpin, and it didn't cost them too much, but they're definitely going to try to work their way around it, and it did not really gain them much time, but we'll see how it goes. It's still way too early to call.
The top 3 separated by 6/10 at the moment. Azure, RK, and Caffey really close, really juking each other out. This is an extreme battle for the lead, and it's only been 5 minutes in this race.
Yeah, the first 5 minutes have been nothing but battles and fights. I'm keeping an eye on the our race control at the moment. I don't see many other fights at the moment. But let's see as Azure goes super wide going out of
Oh, that's going to compromise
Stabilo
their
too.
line.
It's gonna allow RK to really start making a run. Here they come down the back straight. RK has made a move on the outside. He's trying to find the spot. This happened last time. RK was not able to do it. RK is trying everything he can to try to make a move. Going into the chicane, is it gonna be enough? No.
Not quite.
They've been trying the in and out every time I've noticed, but unfortunately it's just not worked, and it's more costing them time than anything. But unfortunately, it's the only move he has at the moment, and it's definitely been putting. I definitely assume that's been putting Azure on edge because that was super wide going out of Stabilo too, but they were able to save it thankfully.
Absolutely. I think I'm seeing a pattern as well. Azure coming off kind of weakly in Sector 3, but that defense, that is really hard to get past. And as soon as RK comes close to Azure, I think Caffey, that T-Rex, that Rexy Porsche comes for a sniff. So it's a bit
Speaking
of a
of sniff,
sticky
here comes
situation.
RK making a move on the inside. Oh, there was contact. There was definitely contact. There was definitely contact. That was a big spin. RK tried to make a move on the inside, contacted Azure, and spun. I don't know what happened afterwards. Unfortunately, I missed it, but that's going to set RK back way, way back. They're now all the way back in 9th.
That is really unfortunate for RK.
I do wish we had a replay of that. 5-second penalty to car 6, causing a collision. Our first penalty of... Yeah, that is Katie. I don't know what happened there. Fortunately, we don't have a replay, but they must have tapped somebody at some point to cause that. But speaking of, I should point out, this race will be live stewarded, so these penalties will be done live as RK is now going to have to make a charge up the field. And I think this is also going to kind of breathe, well, I would say kind of breathe a sigh of relief to Azure, but I don't know because this could just be a racing incident. We'll have to see. We will update you as we keep an eye on our, as we get noted.
Absolutely, we will have to wait for what the stewards think of that incident as, of course, Azure leading that race all the way at the moment, but they have a new threat up their rear end, which is Caffey, that Rexy Porsche, sniffing some goat for breakfast. So Azure currently in a vulnerable spot, trying to run away from this T-Rex of a Porsche.
Yeah, I will say from what I was actually on cam with, I was watching from Azure's perspective on that incident. It almost looked like Arcade made an insane dive as they were coming into the corner. I don't think there was really much Azure could do other than to just hold their line and hope that Arcade didn't bump into them. They did, but it doesn't look like it affected them too much. There's a little bit of a scratch on Azure. I think it affected Arcade more than it did Azure.
Yes, as Caffey still stiffing that rear end, as we do have a battle in the midfield. I think that is Dipping Sauce, who just got past Newt. And there's Vossi versus Arcade. Vossi down the inside. Vossi makes a brilliant move. Yeah, and Arcade drops another position.
Yeah, I'm looking at that car. Arcade's car is not in the best of shapes. I think they hit the wall when they spun, and now they've got some pretty hefty damage, and they're losing more and more time. They're probably just gonna have to run on a recovery strategy at this point, as we continue to follow Vossi. Ooh, they had a little bit of a wiggle going out of I believe that was campus, or I'm sorry, it was I forget what it was. I'm sorry, my brain is not working. Anyway, they got loose. They were able to save it, but RK is now right on the bumper of Vossi.
Yeah, Azure still holds that lead from Caffey at the moment. It's going to be close. I think Caffey is a bit closer at the moment. Caffey right up that rear end of that McLaren as they head right into Blanchimont.
So I just noticed something watching this feed right now. I noticed there's a little bit of damage on that Porsche. Did they I wonder if they made contact with RK, because
I
I'm
think
noticing that there's a little. If you look on the front of Rexy, you'll notice that there's a little bit of scratching on the front of that car, and I'm curious to see if there's any damage there.
I think that yeah, I think Cappy collected the spin car of RK or a previous nudge, because Cappy was quite close. But but speaking of which, Cappy still behind Azure, really struggling to get past that defense. That McLaren is as wide as it can get, trying to defend. Currently, Cappy has the fastest lap, but somehow they just can't pierce Azure's position.
Yeah, I think the problem they're running into is, well, Porsche problems. Porsches are amazing in the corners, but they are struggling to keep up with Azure in the long straights, and that is where Azure is just gaining all of that time. They're basically just trying to keep Caffey back, as we see a little bit of a wiggle from Caffey going out of the corner. I'm definitely beginning to think that there is a little bit of aero damage there.
Yeah, looking back at RK, who is currently now at P9. RK now has the blue E Aston Martin of Newt right ahead, and previously RK had a bit of a sniff trying to get past that Aston, but Newt making that Aston as wide as it can, so that RK can't pierce that armor and get position, which is going quite well as RK as close as he can get. Oh no, I think I think RK might have the run coming down the inside. No, he
Oh,
has it.
I think he
Newt's
was going to try to
defense.
move, but then thought better of it after what happened last time. They let off and let Newt by, and unfortunately, it's going to cost them a little bit of time. But they are trying to make up every inch of time lost, and it is definitely mind games from RK as they hold right on the bumper of Newt. I
RK
think
close
Newt is
again, pulling out
yeah.
next to them side to side. I think RK has got it this time. It's gonna be close, but they're still side to side, not quite. RK ducks back into the slipstream, looking for
Yeah,
another day to pass.
I think he's going to try to make it on the chicane because he's got definitely a better run than Newt does. But
Not
Newt is
quite
fighting
so.
tooth and nail for this spot.
That's right, Newt parking between the two chicanes as we have another 5-second penalty for Katie for causing another collision. I
I
wonder what's
think
happened.
I wonder if this is in conjunction with the same collision. I'm gonna check the stewards. I'm checking our steward announcer channel to see if maybe there's some context behind it, but unfortunately there is not.
Nothing at the
Um,
moment, but Cappy right on the outside of Azure Goat. Can he make the move into Lakecom? No, he doesn't. Azure defends that inside. Nice and tuck as Cappy comes back into the rear, as Cappy returns to seeing the view of Azure's rear end.
Yeah, as Caffey tried to make the move, was not there. Definitely very close. Unfortunately, I will point out that despite all this, the person who's benefiting this most, I would say, is Saber. Saber is slowly but surely creeping in on Caffey and Azure, and I believe just probably at this point just trying to wait for a mistake, as we see Saber just sitting like they're about, I want to say, about a second behind, not even, as we follow Azure and Caffey going into the S's. No real issues yet, but they're definitely trying to find a spot. Caffey's giving it everything they can, and it is definitely it's working. I will say that. But Azure, I think, is now getting the groove together and is just trying to keep Caffey behind them.
I wanted to say this too. Saber in qualifying, he was quite some distance away from Azure, Caffey, and RK's time, but because of Caffey's and because of the squabble that Caffey and Azure are having, they are able to chase right up to their rear end. So they are in this fight because they're keeping it clean. They're they're keeping it focused, and they're just trying to find easy pickings, which could be from the squabble between Caffey and Azure.
Yeah, and I also want to point out in the middle of that, Saber went deep into the braking zone of the chicane, and it gained them a lot of time. They are now on the back bumper of the Rexy Porsche as they head up toward Eau Rouge and Radeon. And so far, so good. I will say this: if that's the case, Saber definitely is going to have the advantage over Caffey. Saber right on the bumper of Caffey, using all that Italian muscle to get as close as they can to Caffey. Is there going to be a move going into the corner? No, but
Not
they are
quite, but
definitely.
we have another move coming into Camel Straight. It's RK on dipping sauce. RK wrapping around the outside. Can he make the move stick? It's quite close, but yes, he can. That's very close, but RK makes the position. Really close racing from RK. Really nice climbing.
RK is giving it everything he's got. He went super wide going out of the corner. In fact, got a little loose. I think that aero damage is not helping him at all, but he is doing everything he can to regain time, and it is definitely working because he is now on a charge.
I have got to
As
say, yes, this is a man on a mission. Initially, this guy was right behind the rest of the field after that incident with Azure, but right now, he's coming back. He's currently got Nick ahead of him by 1 second. So let's see how this race wraps up.
Yeah, still got plenty of time. Pit stops are just to bring up. There is mandatory pit stops, and the pit stops should be starting in a couple minutes. We should see people starting to come in, and I'm curious to see how the leading cars are going to do this because it is close. And like pit stops are going to be the biggest thing here. I'm gonna predict that a lot of these cars are just going to try to stay out as long as they physically can, and that's probably the best way to do it. As Saber, I'm noticing, is really braking a lot later than Caffey is going into the chicane, and it is helping them massively getting into turn one and into Eau Rouge and Radeon. It is just helped them tremendously because they are right on the bumper of Caffey yet again. I think this time they may have a better run than Caffey because they went a little bit wide. We'll see in a second. Here they come down the straight, and let's see. I think that's not going to be the case. Saber trying their best to just keep up with this pack, and they are definitely are.
I think Saber set up his car more for the corner bits of Spa, because as soon as we head to the Camel Straight, Saber drops off a little, and Azure and Cap just run away with it. Right now, they are still fighting for it. They are 2 tenths apart from each other, and Cappy having a nice big sniff. Could they have the sniff into the inside? Not quite. And Azure parks the apex, blocks Cappy. Incredible defense from Azure.
Yes.
And Saber closing in.
It caused an accordion effect as well. Saber broke a little bit late and was right on the bumper of Caffey as they were coming into the corner, but unfortunately they were not able to take advantage. As we continue to follow this fight, it's these three cars are within a second of each other, and that is definitely prime time for one mistake could cost you everything. Saber having yet another bit of a
close.
move. Yeah, Saber had a bit of a sniff going into the S's. Is it going to be enough? They are right on the bumper of Caffey. Any second now, they're going to try to make the move, I'd assume. Heading into Stabilo. Any move? No. Pit window has now opened, so we will start probably seeing people come in for their stops.
I wonder how will the pit stop games go, because you do have the three. Will they pit at the same time, or will they perform overcuts or undercuts? And also, I would like to add, we already have the incidents being reported now. On lap 3, we have the incident between, there goes Cappy wrapping around the outside and bust off chicane, but Azure pulling into the pits. Is this a strategic move made by the 765 McLaren? They are the first to come into the pits, and now Cappy leads this race. But will the undercut work for Azure, or can Caffey overcut the 765 McLaren of Azure? Anyways, continuing on our incidents, we have a racing incident between the cars 21 and 523 on lap 3. So that's the only thing reported at the moment. Speaking of the cars number 21 and 523, we still have Caffey being chased by Saber in the Camel Straight.
Yeah, Caffey in the Camel Straight. They definitely are gaining, or they're definitely gaining a little bit of time, but it is now a battle of corners, it looks like. Saber definitely had a bit of a run going into, I believe it was Stabilo, and they almost had it, but I think just the power of the portion of those corners was just not enough for Saber to get the move done, as Caffey is now leading this race, but they still have to pit and still plenty of time to do it. So we'll have to see where this goes. I am curious though as to why Azure pitted now, because I feel like it was a bit early, but maybe they have damage, but we'll
Probably
have to
also
see.
also because Azure was really under fire. I think he had no choice but to come in for an undercut and try and make those tires last for around 35 minutes of the race.
Yeah, I also want to point out Azure has not left pit lane. Oh, I spoke too soon.
There we go.
Yeah, Azure has just left. Here we go. They must have had a little bit of damage or something, but now it's just them all alone. So we'll have to see where they wind up once the pits start. Once the pits start coming in, but maybe my timing was off or something. But they definitely have an open track. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Plenty
I
of
will
time
say
to.
this. Azure has clean air, and in that clean air, he has to make as much time as possible. Try and make a gap between him and Caffey so that when Caffey pits, Caffey will be right behind the 765 McLaren of Azure.
As we have another penalty on lap 3. This is 69 and 6 of the 69 of Wishel and the 6 of Katie. 6 on the brakes too late, contacted with the rear of Wishel, forcing them wide, and the position was not returned. We're still waiting on the big one, which was the incident between RK and Azure. I'm very curious to see where the stewards wind up with that one. I don't really know what that's going to turn into, because from my angle, it almost looked like there was nothing that could be. There was nothing from my angle that Azure could have done. Like, unless they cut in, then we'll have to see. Like, that's all we have to do. We just have to wait and see for the penalties to roll through.
Absolutely. Azure quite a ways behind, but that's just because they served their pit stop. Don't worry, I think Azure still has got this in the bag, but it really does depend. Can Azure make the gap and undercut Caffey, or will Caffey commit to the overcut and lead this race thereon? This is an interesting strategy battle to be looked at for sure.
Yeah, definitely. But I will say, I almost want to say Azure's doing this to kind of get the open air and gain as much time as he could, and it may pay out to their advantage. And we're still waiting for the official one, but there was another steward incident drop. This one was a racing incident, only a mild one on lap 3 between the 992 of Dipping Sauce and 6 of Katie. But I don't think it's going to matter to them too much.
Yeah, rather unfortunate incident. And speaking of Katie, I think Katie has retired from the race, as I do not see them on my grid.
Yeah, I don't either. I was actually about to point that out. I was like, I think Katie unfortunately called it quits, and that's rather unfortunate.
Yeah, that's rather unfortunate. Seeing someone pull out of the race and mark it as a DNF, but I believe that Katie has the other rounds to look forward to, cause it's not over yet. In the Simufur calendar, we have 6 races, and one of them is a drop round. So Katie has definitely used up one drop round here in Spa and can probably score some points in the bag in the next races.
Yeah, and that's really all that matters. Is I see another car that has gone in. That is Newt, who is going
That
in for their pit stop.
Yes, that is the
Uh,
Blue Shark E Racing car of Newt coming into the pits. And that is our second stopper. Let's see how they stack up against Azure, because I think they've been in quite a bit of traffic. But if this has gained them time, I don't know. Let's see how this works out. As
I
Newt
hear,
makes a stop and stops right into the pit box. I think that's a perfect alignment, and yes, he is currently waiting for those tires to be served and ready to be launched out. Not much happening in the grid at the moment besides Saber following Cappy and RK trying to make the chase on the GTR of MNU. Now this is an interesting fight because you do have the GTR which has phenomenal top speed, but the McLaren beats Godzilla by the corners just a little. That's what I think of this race, and it's going to be quite quite a feast quite a feast for the eyes. Unfortunately, yeah, apologies, we still do not have the broadcast up, but RK versus MNU might be an interesting battle. Old versus new. Godzilla versus, whatever monsters from McLaren. Oh no, wait! RK has come into the pits, so has MNU! So they
yeah, I was
both
about
come
to
into
point
the
out.
pits.
Yeah, I was about to say MNU has just gone into the pit lane, and as you pointed out, RK has also gone in. Let's point it out that RK is now going to have to, I'd assume, repair. I'm assuming they're going to repair, unless they're going to try to ignore it and try to continue this race without it. But that might be a bit wishful thinking, because I was looking at the front of that McLaren. It definitely looked like there's some pretty heavy damage. So we'll just have to see. As we see, another
Abs-
car has gone in. That is the number 69 of Wushel. Remember, they were the one involved in that incident with Katie earlier in the day, and they may also have damage. I'm looking at their car right now. I don't particularly see anything huge.
just a
So,
mild bit of dings and dents, that's all.
yeah, a little ding in a dent. I don't really see it, like the hood isn't flapping or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
But
we'll have to.
speaking of dings and dents, we have a status on the incident between Azure and RK. It is no further action, as RK has gone for a late dive on Azure with no overlap and is spun as a result for contact. No further action warranted. So
Oh,
Azure
so
gets
that
away scotch-free. RK
well, I
gets away
wouldn't say get
scotch-free
away
as well.
scot free. It was more, it was more like there was no further action. There was nothing that needed to be done. There was no incident involved. Um, awesome job to our stewards keeping us posted when it comes to stuff like this, as Azure has now begun their climb up the ranks, and as the pit stops go through, Azure is now in 8th. The leaders having not hit yet. It's going to have to be soon, I'd imagine, unless Caffey is. As I say that, here goes Saber. Saber has now gone into pit lane. I'm honestly not surprised. They're probably going to try to go for the undercut, and it's worked for Saber before. It should work for Saber again. Um, these undercuts. Now Caffey is all alone, running their own race, as nobody at the moment is close enough to contend with them. But they are running on old tires. They're trying to get as much life out of these tires as they can, and I'm gonna assume try to hopefully gain the undercut on Azure.
Speaking of the Rexy car is the lone leader. They are very far from the rest of the pack. Can Caffey make up that time and overcut both Saber and Azure? Because right now, let's look at the status of Saber. They are still coming in for their pit stop. Azure just coming out of Stavilo, so this could be quite a close battle. Will the undercut be worth it for Azure, or will it be the overcut that wins Saber the position? As you can
Or
see, as you're coming out of Blanchimont right now, getting ready to pin those brakes against the bus stop chicane. It's going to be quite close, as because I think Saber is currently swapping their tires right now.
yeah, definitely. And I'm looking at the times given at the moment. Azure just set his personal Azure set his personal best, and then as I look, Azure set another personal best, a 218 182. Caffey has only been able to set a his her their best was a 218 132. However, their consistent times have been in the 218 fives. Azure's times have been in the 218 4, about
Here we
218
go.
fours, 218 threes. They are on a charge. It's gonna be close. Caffey's gonna have to come in at some point. I think that at this point it becomes a matter of, can these tires are these tires gonna last, or is it time to maybe run it out? I don't know.
Speaking of pit strategies, I think Azure has made its way in front of Saber, but looking at the gap between those two, Saber is 9 tenths behind, so not much time gained or lost by both strategies.
Yeah, and here's a more interesting thing. Azure now has a little bit of competition, and Saber now has a drafting buddy to gain time. I'm wondering if maybe the strategy that Caffey is working on is gonna work. I I don't know. It definitely feels like they're trying to go for as long as possible, and then go in and try to use or try to outrace Saber and Azure with fresher tires and fuel.
Yeah, Azure right now trying to run away from Saber, trying because Saber is on a chase at the moment in the fresher tires. That's don't forget Azure pitted like 5 to 10 minutes ago, and Saber just pitted just a lap ago. So Saber clearly on the fresher tires. So it's going to be interesting to see how the tires wear come the end of the race.
So I just realized something. Pit lane should be closing in, I almost want to say, like a few minutes. Is like they're trying to extend everything on a tire, but I'd imagine Caffey's going to be going in either this lap or the next, because they are not going to they're just not going to have enough time for one more lap and make it before pit lane closes. And if they don't get it before pit lane closes, then they get a huge penalty.
One thing's for sure, because currently right now, Nick and Vossi have made their pit stop. So the only two that have not made their stop yet are Kaffy and Randomy. I think, yeah, they are indeed going long by the looks of it. As Kaffy, has he dived into the pits?
They have
They have. Yes,
they ha-
this is the crucial moment. Can Kaffy come out ahead of Azure and Saber?
And I'd also like to point out we have a new fastest lap, Arcade, with a 218.3 or 218.30. An absolutely monumental lap. So they definitely fixed their car, and they are now on a recovery drive, giving it everything they can. So given everything, I wouldn't count out Arcade just yet. They still got 25 minutes to make up all that time.
Yeah, they just got past Wushel and RK on a dive, almost on a dive down Vossi. Really on a charge right now. This man is on a mission.
Absolutely. I'm keeping an eye on where Azure is. They are now entering Stavilo 1, and Caffey has just about entered their pit box. So it's going to be tight, but unfortunately, I think uh, Katie is not going to be able to keep that spot given the amount of time that they have. Have to see. They are now on the back street on their way to the S's. Let me keep an eye. Let me check on Kathy. They are still in pit lane, and they haven't dropped yet. I'll keep an eye on Katie. see where Azure is. Azure is now heading toward turn one. It's going to be a drag race. If Katie can drop any second
Yeah.
now. Here we go. They dropped. It's
Cappy's
going to be
dropped.
close.
Cappy's off. Oh,
Caffey
this
is
is going to be
off.
an interesting race, that's for sure. As they come out, heading up towards Oruj Radion, have they done the right call and have they come out on time? It's
They
going to be a
have.
close one. They're right in
They
front of
have.
Azure, but the overspeed that these guys have, I think Azure might have it. And but here comes Azure on the outside, and I think Azure has got the strategy right. That is an undercut done successfully. All they have to do now is to defend with those slightly older tires, because don't forget, Saber and Cappy are on a much fresher set. They have
They,
they have less laps on them, and Azure now has to carry those two in slightly worn tires.
yeah, and I also want to point out Saber is on newer tires than, or on older tires than Caffey, but Caffey is on colder tires. So this is going to be their outlap. If Saber wants to move, this is going to be the only time to do it as they head down the heading down the corner. Is it going to be a move? No, it's not. I think Saber's probably going to try to settle in on the corner for now and try to maybe make a move in a later corner. Here they come down towards Stabilo. It is McLaren, Porsche, and Lamborghini bumper to bumper. It is actually, it's now closer than what it was when before the pit stops.
Yeah, they are now separated by 6 tenths. Actually, make that 5 tenths. These guys are on each other's noses and rears.
Yeah, they are right on their tails, and Azure holding off with everything they've got. Caffey's trying to make a move on the outside, but so is Saber. Saber's going to try to make a dive on the inside. Is it going to work? No, they thought better of it. Stand on the inside, but I think Saber unfortunately took a little bit too much curb going into the chicane, but they were able to save it, but lost a little bit of time there.
Oh yes, this is going to be as close as it can get. Once again, we are sorry that you aren't seeing this, but this is a phenomenal sight. This is absolutely cracking racing as Cappy and Saber tuck into the slipstream as Azure coming up Rouge Radion. What can they do in the Camel Straight?
Yeah, remember the McLaren's probably going to have a little bit more advantage over the Porsche in the straights. However, Saber is also going to have a little bit more of advantage on the Porsche as well. The Porsches do not have amazing straight line speed, but we'll have to see. They are right on. They do have the draft of Azure, and they are keeping right on Azure's bumper.
Yeah, they are inseparable. They're like they're like three magnets. It's just hard to get them apart, despite everything.
Despite everything, I will point out that Caffey did have a little bit of a wiggle going out of the corner, and they're having more wiggle. I wonder if tires haven't been broken in yet, and they're still having a little bit of problems.
Yeah, I don't think the tires are fully up to temps at the moment. It also could be Porsche wiggles, because this Porsche it's known as a slightly unsteady car, slightly more unsteady than a. But it's Saber around the outside. Can he make the move? Not coming into the inside. It's side to side as they head at the come to the exit of campus. Can Saber get it? Not quite. As Caffey comes up into the inside, into Stabilo, and keeps position. That was a close one, but Saber lives for another day to fight with Caffey.
That was definitely a brave move from Saber. They definitely made Caffey very aware that they are not facing just Azure at the moment. They now have Saber right on their bumper, and that was definitely a move. It almost worked to perfection, but it's now probably giving Caffey the realization that it's not just them against Azure. It's now them against Azure and Saber all fighting together, and I think Saber again had a bit of a better launch than Caffey going into that corner. It was definitely very close as they come into turn one. No issues whatsoever. They're just sticking it bumper to bumper, and whew, that's definitely that was definitely very interesting.
Absolutely. and all that kerfuffle between Saber and Kafi has dropped them, has made them split. They are now divided by 1.1 second. That fighting is really costing them their position, their gaps, as well as their tires.
Yeah, but remember, Caffey has the freshest tires out of the three of them. So once those tires get the tempo and once Caffey gets their groove in, they're definitely going to be able to push a lot harder later in the stages. Unlike Saber and Azure, who are now going to have to start to wonder if maybe this strategy may not work in the end. We'll have to see. Caffey is definitely getting a little bit more of a little bit more out of the quarters, as we see Caffey take a little bit too much curve and go a little wide, not affecting them too much, but it's definitely gained them a little bit of time. As we see Caffey go to make a move on the outside, no, they thought better of it, and now sticking back to the draft on the inside.
They are indeed very close. Caffey right up the tail of Azure as they come to the right side. Here comes Saber on the inside and they touch. Azure's and Caffey takes advantage and leads the race. An unfortunate incident as Saber was too late on the brakes and ran into Azure's car. That's just terrible luck for the number 76.5 McLaren.
That's super unfortunately. I saw them go deep on the inside, but I didn't realize that it was right into Azure. And unfortunately, now that's going to give Caffey the lead by a substantial margin. That is super unfortunate. They were super close the entire time, and now they're behind. Now they have to fight against Simon, and as well as make up all the time that they lost. And with 17 minutes to go, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, Cappy's a long way ahead after that incident, and I was saying Simon right up Azure and Saber now, but Cappy, the person taking the most advantage of that incident.
Yeah, definitely, and I definitely noticed as well. Caffey went really wide, so they lost a lot of time. But I think now that Azure and Saber are away from them, it's unfortunately going to be smooth sailing for Caffey.
It appears I have lost connection at the moment. Yeah, it appears I've lost connection at the moment. Wolfin, can you take this for me if you are still in?
I am still in, so again, we apologize. We are still having technical issues at the moment. We will let you know if and when we can get you all back in. So it will be me at the moment, and so far it has been all and now Caffey is now starting to run away with it. Unfortunately, we will keep you informed as we see. As we were talking, there is now a penalty for Saber, a 5-second penalty for Saber, which is, I'm not surprised. They almost just plowed straight into the back of Azure, and we are going to see what the official incident is, as it's being typed at the moment, but we're pretty much sure what it is.
I would like to mention as well, if you want to look on board into the race, you could also check into the Simufur server and go to verify yourself and go to your video links, as some of our drivers are actually broadcasting their onboards for this race. For example, you have Wushel, you have you have Vossi, you have Nick. They are all streaming their onboards and how they're going on in their races. So if you want to see the action visually, go check them out.
I'd also like to point out there was a incident between the 272 and the 69 of Bushel. However, it is going to be investigated afterwards as we continue on the battle between, well, I was going to say Azure and Saber, but it's kind of moot at this point because Saber now has a 5-second penalty. All Azure can do now is just run his race, and it is just super unfortunate as to what happened. They just went really deep into the brakes, and now it's cost both of them their race.
Absolutely, that is just really terrible look on Azur's side, and I don't want to be too harsh, but that was a bit clumsy from Saber, but they're trying to make their ground once again as they chase Azure.
Yeah, they're chasing Azure, but it's not really going to matter. In fact, if anything, Saber may just want to just let Saber by, because as long as they keep within a second, the position's still theirs, unless Saber goes in to pit for their time penalty.
I don't think it's a viable option considering how long the pit lane in Spa is. If you go through the pit lane in Spa, I think that's almost a whole lap.
Yeah, that is true. So at this point, they're just probably just going to take the 5-second penalty after the fact, and it's going to be what it's going to be. It's probably going to land them in, I want to say, 5th or 6th, unfortunately.
Currently, it looks like it's settling them in 5th, because MNU 3 seconds behind.
Yeah, and basically it's just going to be, and unfortunately Azure now has an 11-second gap to make up, and
we do have a flash update, so the servers have returned, so we are all just fixing a bit. We are all making our emergency repairs, and we will soon be underway with video for you to enjoy, for your eyes to see.
Yeah, stand by. Please stand by as we wait for for everything to be set up. You will see the stream as we go live eventually.
Speaking of, that is Saber and Azure side to side. They are fighting each other. Azure not leaving much room for Saber. I wonder if this is vendetta against the incident that they've had. But Saber really right up the rear of that McLaren.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if maybe if it's going to help or hurt them, because remember, they unfortunately still have to make up 11 seconds, which I don't really foresee working in 10 minutes. They would have to gain a second a lap. And Kathy is now on a tear now that they've been let loose. However, I want to point out another person who has been on a charge is RK, who still has the fastest lap at a 2:17.3, and they have just been on a charge trying to make up all that time they lost, and so far it's been working.
Absolutely, RK, the man on a mission, as they're currently P7. They do have the fastest lap, and their next target is Nick, who is 2 seconds away.
And we're seeing the incident between Saber and Azure has been posted, and yeah, you can't confirm. Unfortunately, Saber did miss their braking marker, which caused the incident. Super unfortunate, but what can you do?
Yeah, it is what it is. But so let's just they're just continuing racing, seeing what they can make of these incidents. It's going to be close with how much people are within that 5-second gap. Currently, it might as well be Nick too, getting in that 5-second gap.
Yeah, well, it's definitely working hard as we keep an eye on everything. I'm following the 3 cars going on right now between Saber, Azure, and now Simon, who has now gotten caught up in this little bit of a race for the podium. This has now really helped Saber, or not Saber, this has helped Simon of the 3, because no matter what, they will be guaranteed a podium if they stay within this pack, and I think that's what Simon is aiming for, as they are just kind of sticking between a half second to a second behind Saber and Azure.
Yeah, and another update. Unfortunately, we are still having bugs as of the moment with the current server, so please bear with us. We might we might have to run radio for the rest of this broadcast session. But believe me, we are trying our best with what we can do with the current system.
Yeah, fortunately, there's not much we can do with servers going down at the worst possible time. It is what it is, but we will try to give you as much of the action as we can through our voices. And I say we're doing a pretty good job, hopefully.
Absolutely, yeah. But yes, we have the battle for the podium is not yet over. Who could get that third place spot? Is it Simon? Is it MNU? It depends. It's a close battle for P3 right now.
Yeah,
Current,
and
currently right now we have Caffey in the lead still by a 15-second gap, followed by Azure. And then we have Saber in third with a 5-second penalty. Behind him Simon, Luck, MNU, Nick, RK, Newt, Wishel, Dipping Sauce, Vossi, and Randomy finishes up the grid. Just so I can get your please your curiosity about the current positions.
yep, and the gap right now, I would say right now the closest fight right now is the battle between second and fourth, all within about 2 seconds of each other as they head down into turn one. Saber once again just having a little bit of trouble. They're struggling going out of turn one, and it's been helping Azure out a lot as they're starting to pull away from Saber at the moment.
I do want to say Simon is well within that 5-second gap, but I think Simon really wants to get past that Lamborghini of Saber as MNU charges behind in that huge GTR. It's definitely going to be a scary sight for Simon, and I think he really wants past that Lambo.
Yeah, and I think he's going to try to fight for it at the very end. There's still about 5 minutes, about 6 minutes left. I'm sorry, and still plenty can happen in that time. We've said it before, with that fight between Caffey and Saber, Caffey, Saber, and Azure, but we'll have to see now.
Absolutely. This battle's still going on. Azure still trying to run away from Saber, and Simon trying to get behind the rear end of that Lambo, that tail end of Saber. As Caffey still runs away with quite a dominant gap. This race was beyond our predictions, that's for sure. I was thinking that RK can get this from the get-go, but unfortunately an incident caught them out, and then later on an incident caught Azure out as well. So right now it's the Rexy of Caffey taking that lead by a huge margin, 16 seconds. Those fresher tires really working out when Caffey is on clean air.
Yeah, we can see Saber's now on a run on Azure. Is this a wise decision? Saber's trying to make a move on the outside. Is it gonna work? Trying to go for the over-under. It's not gonna work. Azure with the better line, but I mean, Saber's giving it everything they've got, and I don't particularly know if this is the right call, even though it's the end of the race. Remember, you have a 5-second penalty. Is it worth risking what other positions you may have, or at worst, maybe risking another penalty, getting into another incident with, of all people, the guy you just took out who was the leader?
Yeah, think of it this way as well. If you get past Azure, and if you are able to make a bigger gap, I believe that is more positions to gain. So I think Saber still wants that fight, still wants to make the 5 seconds not reach the other drivers right behind him. So that's why Saber is still in this fight.
Yeah, they're still in this fight. I mean, for me, if I were Saber, I wouldn't be pushing as hard. I would just try to keep to the back of Azure and just accept that, even if I were to get back Azure, I would not be able to gain 5 seconds in 4 minutes. That's just, I would have to gain like a second a lap, and at this point you might as well just kind of accept where you are right now and just go, oh, as we see,
Oh,
Saber really
Azure.
went on an insane dive. I don't know what happened there. They went super wide and almost went to the back of Azure, and that's now going to give Simon the position.
Absolutely, I think Saber might have missed their braking again as Simon now gets past. Simon is now your new podium sitter on merit, so it's Kathy, Azure, and Simon filling out the top three.
Filling out the top three, and now it is Azure's now starting to kind of run away with it with a nice big gap between them and Simon, almost a second now. So at this point, it's just bring it home. And I think that's of Azure's mentality right now, is just bring it home. No matter what, it's a P2 regardless. A nice start to the season and something they can definitely make up later on, especially since they now know they can beat RK in a straight launch if they do it right.
Absolutely, and despite I'm sure that Azure would be frustrated with all the incidents, but all things considered, held on quite well. Actually, trying to defend his best from Simon, but Saber has another target to worry about because RK is coming up close against MNU, and if RK gets within that 5 second gap, I think that is Saber's another position for Saber to lose. So Saber has to get a move on, or at least try and get as close to Simon or past him again.
Yeah, I'm looking at the timing score at the moment. They will lose out to MNU if it stays the way it is. RK will then need to gain about a second to take the position from Saber to get P5. So, with the penalties applied, and this is just me going off what I can see, it will be Kathy, Azure, Simon, MNU, and then depending on where RK is by the end of this race, it could be either Saber or RK.
Absolutely, this is going to be a tight race for RK. This is like the Austrian Grand Prix back in 2020 in Formula 1. Lewis Hamilton had that incident with Alexander Albon, which gave him a 5 second penalty. And guess what Lando Norris did? He pushed as hard as he can to get under that 5 second gap. So we might be seeing the same thing coming from RK and coincidentally in a McLaren of all cars.
Yeah, they're doing it in a McLaren, and it is definitely working. They are now they are now exactly 5 seconds ahead behind MNU. They now need to get within 3 or 2 seconds of MNU, and if they are able to do that, that will be position 5 secured.
It is definitely going to be tight as RK is trying to get a move on, try to push as hard as he can, but not yet. The gap has not yet been closed.
Yep, and I'd also like to point out this will be the last lap. Caffey is now on the Camel Straight all alone, really. They've just, after that incident, they've just basically ran away with it. They weren't able to gain any time or set the fastest lap, but it is now all, Caffey is basically all alone with this win, and super unfortunate as we get back to Azure, as we see a position change. We see Dipping has fallen back. Vossi is now P10. I wonder what happened there. Oh, as I say that, I'm looking and seeing why. There is a massive fight going on in the back of the pack. It is now Vossi, Dipping, and Randomy, as we see on the last lap, as we see that looked like Dipping go really wide in Radion. Now right on the back bumper of Vossi. They're trying to make a move. Remember, the Porsche doesn't have as much speed. They're keeping to the inside. Is it going to be enough? They may try to get him in the next corner. No, they are bumper to bumper. Not quite. They're bumper to bumper, though. It is tighter as we see Vossi get a little bit loose going out of the corner. They were able to get it done. Now they just need to hold it one more time. Our last time down the hairpin as Vossi is doing everything in their power to keep that P10 spot.
Speaking of, I believe that Caffey's on their way to the finish as they head down Blanchimont, coming into the final chicane, braking hard, hard right, hard left, and it's going to be that number 21 Rexy car of Caffey winning the race. They've got the podium. Rexy has got a podium in Daytona. Now he's won the Simufur, the inaugural Simufur Pro Series race. And as you can see, as we can hear Azure coming up the final corners as well, and Saber and Simon right behind them, finishing the podium. And Saber has finished across the line, but can RK make that gap?
I think he did, actually.
Yes.
I think he did. He actually did.
He has. RK
Yeah.
has gone under the 5 seconds and has taken the position from Saber, meaning that he is promoted to P5 after a rather unfortunate incident. He has made a really wonderful climb.
Yeah, here we go. This is going to be the race for the win. Randomy had a move on the outside. I think that might have been it. I think Randomy was able to get by dipping shots in the last corner, and
900ths of a second. That's really close.
God. That was insanely close. I'm a little bit bummed that I didn't get it at the last second, but that was incredibly close. 0.91. That was nuts.
Absolutely, and now that finishes up the grid. So, unfortunately, we couldn't have the cameras broadcasting throughout the whole race, but we did what we can do considering the current circumstances of the servers.
Yeah, it is rather unfortunate. Maybe if we could, maybe at some point, maybe there will be videos and whatnot of other people's perspectives. But at the moment, we will. We do apologize. We weren't able to get it done at the last second. Right now, I'm just checking if there's any updates. There are not. So, as of right now, it will be our overall standings will be Caffey in P1, Azure in P2, Simon in P3, wrapping up our podium, our top 3. P4 will go to M&U, and P5 with penalties will be RK, followed by Saber, Newbie, Wishel, and then Newt, Bossy, Randomy, Dipping, and unfortunately Katie at the very back due to a retirement.
Absolutely, this first race was quite a banger. I am sorry that you couldn't get to see this with your own eyes, but there was quite some excitement all around. Tight battles for the lead, drama everywhere, and this is just the perfect concoction for an incredible inaugural race.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, we do want to apologize that we were not able to get a live feed for this. We will fix this. We will hopefully next time Kuno servers will not decide to spill coffee or cease being, and we will have the full race for you next time. So we do apologize. However, I think that is going to do it for today. So I am Wolfin with Saber, Saber. Oh my God, Suzuka.
We will get live. We will wait up for a bit because we do have live points upcoming. We're just waiting for that to be processed. But
okay.
continuing on the discussion, round 2 will be at the Silverstone circuit. So we're looking forward to seeing you there. Because honestly, this is a circuit that I believe will produce excellent racing.
Yeah, this is another amazing track. I enjoyed it, especially when we raced it in Amchip and the McLaren. That was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, lots of great experience in Silverstone, and like I said, I predict brilliant racing in Silverstone. It's going to be quite interesting to see how the McLarens, the Porsches, and the Astons, and the others come out on top, come out on this race.
Yeah, definitely. And we are just, at the moment, we're still waiting for the live points to be finalized. So bear with us. We are just now waiting for the points to be more or less finalized. As I will say though, like this was an intense race. It is a shame it ended as it did. Though I will want to point out that um I will say this kind of harks back to another race that was in a single class that happened earlier at a certain track called Suzuka, if you remember that one.
Oh, don't remind me. It was good times and it turned to a bad time.
It turned to good times until we learn what happened when sharks get rotated repeatedly.
Sure indeed.
I mean, I did warn you, to be fair.
But yeah, looking at more of these penalties coming, that is car number 15 and 992. That is a racing incident. So yes, I believe that the points are ready. So let's take a look at the current standings. So you do have Cappy in the Porsche taking 25 points, taking quite a solid lead on the grid right off the bat on this race. And behind him is the McLaren of Azure Goat, who has claimed 22 points with his. It could have been 25, but unfortunately, an incident saw them out of the equation for the win. But maybe next time, the GOAT will come back here next week in Silverstone. Third off, we have Simon in the Aston Martin, who has claimed 20 points. An excellent haul. They've been quiet the whole time, and they've made sure the results sticked. And that's what they certainly did today. And another unexpected result, MNU in the Nissan GTR. They've also stayed quiet like Simon and just got the work done, giving them 18 points. Right behind, I believe that is RK, who has 16 points. Behind the one, I forgot who was on pole. That was RK on pole, wasn't it? Yes, it
It was
was.
RK on
But
pole.
yes, but pole has. But I don't think we've added pole to that. That's just the finishing results. So because behind them is Saber, who has 15 points. It would have been 18 if it weren't for that penalty. If it weren't for that incident as well, it could have been P3. And so rather unfortunate. Let's see how they'll come back next week in Silverstone. Behind them is Nick, not off to the best start, but a decent finish in P7. And that brings them with 14 points. Behind them, a fellow Porsche, the number 69 short racing car of Wuschel, who has claimed 13 points. And then behind is the Blue E Aston Martin of Newt, number 272, with 12 points. And last of the points finisher is the Tick Gang racing car, number 15, Fossey Auto Tiger. Actually, no. We have a few more points finisher. It's actually randomly number 73, scoring 10 points. And our last point finisher is Dipping Sauce in the Aston Martin. And last for Katie, no points yet, but let's see how they'll do in Silverstone. Once again, to conclude this broadcast, I am Suzuka Shark. Alongside me is Wolfin Foxdale, and thank you for watching. Or thank you for listening.
Yeah, I would say it's probably more listening.
See you next week.